Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really deep look into strategic thinking.
Yeah, it's this skill, isn't it? It allows you to sort of cut through the noise.
Exactly. Anticipate challenges, make, well, incredibly effective decisions. Especially now, things are so complex, fast-paced.
For sure.
We've pulled together a great stack of articles, research for this dive. Covers quite a bit daily habits, navigating uncertainty.
Using those powerful analytical frameworks, too.
Right. So our mission for you today is simple. Make you really well informed on developing this strategic mindset.
Pulling out the best bits, the key insights from the sources.
Yeah, the nuggets of knowledge. We want you to walk away with clear, actionable ways to approach problems. Get more clarity, more confidence.
Oh, good.
Okay, so let's jump in. Let's unpack this whole idea of strategic thinking.
Well, it's true. Strategic thinking really goes way beyond just the boardroom, you know? At its core, it's about proactively shaping your future. Could be your career, a business.
Relationships even? Personal goals?
Absolutely, all of it. And the crucial distinction right from the start is it's not just reacting.
Okay.
It's not just responding to things as they happen. It's making deliberate choices.
Choices aligned with longer-term objectives.
Precisely. You're essentially anticipating, preparing for what's next, rather than just being caught off guard.
That proactive element, yeah, that feels like the real game changer here. Our sources keep coming back to that.
They do.
They define strategic thinking as the ability to see beyond the immediate moment.
Right. To envision how your actions, your decisions, how they'll unfold over time.
It's about understanding the bigger picture, spotting patterns, sometimes subtle ones.
And anticipating, crucially, both the challenges and the opportunities before they really hit you.
So you're not just like putting out fires all the time.
No, you're building a fire-resistant structure, metaphorically speaking.
I like that. Instead of just solving problems as they pop up, it's these deliberate choices.
That directly support your long-term goals.
Yeah. And the kind of questions strategic thinkers ask themselves constantly, according to the sources. Things like, what are the potential ripple effects here?
Both good and bad, right?
Yeah. What risks might I be overlooking right now? That's a big one.
And how does this choice I make today affect my goals in, say, 6 months, a year?
Or even 5 years down the line.
Yeah.
So, okay, it's clearly more than just, well, regular thinking. But how do we draw a clearer line? Strategy versus day-to-day stuff.
That's a really fundamental distinction, and yeah, lots of people grapple with it. It helps to think about strategic versus tactical thinking.
Okay.
Imagine you're planning a big road trip, say, across the country.
Right.
Strategic thinking is deciding where you want to end up, maybe New York City, and why you want to go there.
The big goal, the why.
Exactly, the long-term objective. Tactical thinking, then, is the how.
Like which roads to take, what car.
Precisely. The best routes, the
Yeah.
car, where to stop for gas, what time to leave to avoid traffic.
Okay.
All the immediate actions.
Got it. And you need both, obviously.
Absolutely necessary, both. But the trap is getting stuck only in tactical mode. Meaning you might be driving really efficiently, super optimized route, but maybe in the completely wrong direction, or without a clear final destination in mind.
Ah, okay. So activity doesn't equal progress towards the right goal.
You got it. And what's surprising here, maybe, is that many people think strategic thinking is some innate talent.
Like you're born with it. For CEOs or geniuses.
Right. But our sources really emphasize it's actually a skill. A highly cultivable skill.
That's good news.
It is. It's not reserved for the elite few. Anyone can significantly improve it.
Oh.
Well, like any skill, really. Conscious effort, practice, reflection, it gets better over time.
That's incredibly encouraging. It means we can all start, building this muscle.
Exactly.
And speaking of building it, the sources really zero in on specific habits, things strategic thinkers do consistently.
Right. It's not something you just turn on for a big meeting.
No, it's a mindset cultivated through like daily routines almost. So what are some of these habits we can maybe adopt?
Well, the sources point to several key ones.
Okay, first up, daily reflection.
And this isn't just like writing in a diary.
No, it's actively reviewing your decisions, your actions, and importantly, their outcomes. Why did things happen the way they did?
There's research suggesting just 15 minutes of this at the end of the day. Reflecting on what you learned, what you could do differently.
Can significantly boost future performance. Like, what, 23% improvement in some studies?
Something like that, yeah. It's substantial.
Okay, what else? Clear goal setting.
Right. Not just having vague goals, but explicitly defining short-term and long-term ones.
And seeing how they connect.
Crucially, yes. How the small steps feed the big picture.
Then there's continuous learning.
Always a big one. Actively reading, observing, exploring new ideas. Often outside your immediate comfort zone or field.
Why outside?
To broaden your perspective, connect dots others don't see. That's often where, real innovation sparks.
Makes sense. And a huge one they mention, making time for deep thinking.
Oh, yeah. In our always connected world, it's so easy to just react all day.
Strategic thinkers, they say, intentionally schedule it. Focused, no distractions. Time for analysis, planning.
Synthesis too.
Yeah.
One CEO mentioned in the sources he literally blocks out thinking time on his calendar every morning.
Wow. Discipline. Okay, lastly, networking and mentorship.
Right, and not just for, climbing the ladder. It's about engaging with diverse thinkers, people who challenge your assumptions.
Get new perspectives, refine your own thinking.
Exactly. And you can weave these into your day, right? Like a quick morning planning session focused on your big goals.
Or maybe decision journaling, writing down your why before you commit.
Yeah, exactly. Little things that make strategic thinking less of a chore and more, just how you operate. Habitual.
So it becomes second nature over time.
That's the goal. And building on those habits, a truly strategic mindset also thrives on certain qualities.
Like what?
Things like patience, foresight, and adaptability.
Okay, patience. Because strategic plays take time, resisting the quick fix.
Exactly. Foresight is that ability to genuinely anticipate outcomes. And adaptability, well, that's crucial.
Being able to adjust the plan when things change. Because they always do.
So always do. Rigid plans often break. You need flexibility, but without losing sight of the ultimate goal. Adaptability is key.
Right. But then there are the traps, aren't there? The mental shortcuts.
Oh, absolutely. A critical point often overlooked. Even the sharpest thinkers can fall into common cognitive biases, things that cloud judgment.
So the big question is, how do we spot them? How do we avoid these pitfalls?
Well, thankfully, the sources offer some pretty powerful counter strategies.
Okay, let's hear them. Like confirmation bias, where you just look for stuff that proves you right.
Yeah, that one's huge. The counter, actively seek out disconfirming evidence. Make it a game. Try to prove yourself wrong.
Interesting. What about overconfidence bias? Thinking you know more than you do.
For that, the advice is check your assumptions. Verify facts. Don't just rely on gut feeling, especially for big decisions.
Humility, basically.
In a way, yes. Then there's short-term thinking, always going for the immediate reward.
How do you fight that?
Force yourself to consider the longer view. What are the consequences in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years? Really push your timeline out.
Okay. And groupthink, where everyone just agrees to keep the peace.
That kills insight. The solution is to actively encourage different views. Maybe assign a devil's advocate.
Someone whose job it is to disagree.
Exactly. Or use anonymous feedback channels so people feel safer speaking up.
Smart. Last one. Analysis paralysis. Thinking so much you never actually do anything.
Ah, yes. The trap of endless information gathering. The strategy is to recognize when more data isn't adding much value.
Set a deadline.
Set a deadline, commit to a decision with the best available info, and accept that perfect information just doesn't exist. You have to act.
That's such a good point about biases. It's like our brains have these, sneaky default settings.
Yeah, they do. But the good news is we also have tools, frameworks, things to help structure the complexity.
Right. And these aren't just for giant companies planning world domination.
Not at all. They're incredibly useful for your personal growth, setting goals, even making everyday choices better.
Okay, let's unpack a few key ones. First up, maybe the most famous, SWOT analysis.
Ah, yes. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Simple, but really powerful for sizing up your situation. Thinking about a career move, a personal project.
A new business idea. SWOT helps you map out your internal factors, the strengths and weaknesses.
And the external ones, opportunities and threats out there.
A common pitfall here, though, the sources mention.
What's that?
Not being brutally honest, especially about the weaknesses.
Self-awareness is key.
Totally. A truly effective SWOT needs that honesty.
Okay, next. Scenario planning. Sounds complex.
It can be, but the core idea is powerful. You imagine multiple plausible futures, not just the one you want.
Like best case, worst case, maybe a middle ground.
Exactly. Maybe 2-3 distinct possibilities, and then you prepare for each one.
Like Netflix planning for streaming, not just hoping DVDs lasted forever.
Perfect example. They didn't just hope. They planned for a future where physical media might become obsolete. Positions them perfectly.
And the surprising thing is, It's not about predicting the exact future.
No. It's about building the flexibility to respond effectively, no matter which future actually unfolds. It makes you think about triggers, warning signs.
Develops agility. Okay, got it. What about the 80-20 rule? Pareto principle.
Ah, the classic. Roughly 80% of your results often come from about 20% of your efforts.
So the strategic insight is find that critical 20%.
Find it and focus relentlessly on it. Those are your high-impact actions.
Like Apple focusing on a few key products, not trying to make everything.
Exactly. Quality and innovation in a few areas delivered huge returns. Applying it personally means asking.
What are the 20% of things I do that give me 80% of my results or happiness?
Right, and then prioritize those ruthlessly. Cut out the low-impact stuff.
Makes sense. The sources also mentioned visualization tools, mind maps, flowcharts.
Trend analysis, too. These are vital for zooming out.
Seeing the bigger picture, the larger context.
Yeah, connecting what's happening now to broader trends. Identifying the underlying causes, not just reacting to surface symptoms. Avoids getting lost in the weeds.
These frameworks are incredibly useful.
They really are. And building on that, we have mental models.
Okay, what are those exactly? How are they different?
Think of them as structured ways to approach problems more objectively. They simplify complex decisions, help you think more clearly, more strategically.
Stepping back from emotions or biases.
Precisely. Seeing things more clearly, anticipating outcomes better.
Give me an example.
Okay, first principles thinking. This is about breaking a problem down to its absolute fundamental truths, like a physicist would.
Instead of just copying what others do, reasoning by analogy.
Exactly. You ask, what are the undeniable facts here? Forget assumptions. This often leads to really novel solutions.
Like SpaceX rethinking rocket costs from the ground up.
Perfect example. They didn't just tweak existing designs, they went back to the physics and economics.
Powerful. Okay, what's next?
Second-order thinking. This is crucial. It pushes you beyond the immediate consequences.
Thinking about the ripple effects.
Yes. What happens after the initial effect? If you automate a task, first order is efficiency. Second order might be
job changes, need for retraining, team dynamics shifting.
All of that. It's like thinking several moves ahead in chess, playing out the consequences in your mind.
Important. Then there's opportunity cost.
Right. Simply evaluating what you are giving up when you choose one path.
It's not just money, is it?
No, it's the missed opportunities. Choosing to do X means you cannot do Y or Z with that same time or resource. Making that cost explicit sharpens decisions.
Okay, and inversion thinking. That sounds intriguing.
It is. Instead of asking, how do I succeed, you flip it. You ask, what could cause me to utterly fail here?
Thinking backwards from disaster.
Exactly. How can I guarantee the worst possible outcome? By identifying those paths to failure, you can proactively build safeguards to avoid them. It's big in risk management.
That's clever.
And if you connect all these models, evaluating risks and rewards, it enables you to do something really important. Embrace ambiguity.
Except that you won't have all the answers.
Exactly. Uncertainty is just part of life, part of business. Strategic thinkers know they won't have perfect information.
But they can still act.
They can still make thoughtful, high-quality decisions using techniques like iterative decision-making.
Making small steps, seeing what happens, then adjusting.
Yeah, small, maybe reversible steps to gather more data as you go. And probabilistic thinking.
Thinking in terms of likelihoods, percentages.
Right. Estimating the probability of different outcomes. That lets you quantify risk, weigh rewards more accurately, make choices based on likely scenarios, not just gut feelings or wishful thinking.
You're making better bets, essentially.
You're dramatically improving your decision-making under uncertainty.
Yeah. That idea of embracing ambiguity, using tools like probabilistic thinking, it feels quite liberating, actually.
It is. You don't need certainty to act strategically.
So, okay, how do we make all this less theoretical? How do we practice it daily, make it stick? The sources must have some practical exercises.
They definitely do. Some great reflection techniques and exercises to really strengthen these skills.
Okay, let's list a few people can try.
Sure. First, scenario forecasting. Pick a challenge, personal, work, whatever.
And map out those different futures, like we discussed.
Yeah, 2-3 distinct, plausible ones. Best case, worst case, most likely. Then critically think. How would I respond to each of those? It builds mental flexibility.
Okay, what else? SWOT yourself.
Use that framework on yourself. A current project, a life decision, your career path.
Be honest again, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Honesty is paramount. Then, for complex choices, try a decision matrix.
How does that work?
You list your options down one side, key criteria across the top, like cost, time, impact, risk.
And then score each option against each criterion.
Exactly. Maybe weight the criteria, too. It brings objective structure to what can feel like a messy, subjective choice.
Useful. Trend spotting.
Yeah, dedicate maybe a little time each week. Track changes in your industry, your workplace, even just personal habits you notice.
And reflect on what they might mean long term.
What small shifts today could signal bigger trends tomorrow?
And finally, a post-mortem analysis.
Yeah.
After the fact.
Right. After a project ends or a big decision plays out, review it. What went well, what didn't?
What would you do differently? Not about blame, right?
No, strictly about learning. Refining future strategies based on past results.
All these exercises, they really seem to connect to that idea of thinking several steps ahead.
Absolutely. Consistently considering the long-term consequences.
Like that project manager launching a product. You're not just thinking about the launch date.
No, they're considering potential supply chain issues months out, market shifts, what competitors might do in response.
It's training yourself to notice the subtle signals too.
Yes. That quiet customer complaint, that new tech emerging, a new player entering the market. Seeing how these small things fit the bigger picture before they become obvious crises.
Right. But all this practice, how do we know if it's actually working? If we're getting better?
That's a vital question. Because strategic thinking isn't static, is it? It has to evolve as things change.
So you need to measure and adjust.
Absolutely. You need continuous measurement and refinement. It's a feedback loop, not a straight line.
Okay, how do we measure? First step.
Set measurable goals. Identify key performance indicators, KPIs, or specific milestones. Things that tell you if your strategy is actually moving the needle.
Like if your strategy is better teamwork, maybe track cross-department projects.
Exactly. Something concrete. Second, regularly review outcomes.
Compare what actually happened to what you expected.
Yes. Where were you right? Where were your assumptions wrong? That's where the deep learning kicks in.
Third, adjust strategies proactively.
Use those insights from reflection and measurement to tweak your plans. Don't be afraid to pivot if the data suggests it.
But without losing sight of the ultimate goal.
Crucially, yes, adapt the path, not necessarily the destination. And finally, maybe simpler, celebrate small wins.
Acknowledge progress.
Yeah. Recognizing even small steps forward reinforces the habits, keeps you motivated. This whole loop.
Ensures your decisions stay aligned with the big picture.
Right. It makes strategic thinking less about luck, less about guesswork.
And more about deliberate, thoughtful action.
Exactly. Constantly preparing, anticipating, responding with intelligence, with composure. Knowing your ability to handle complexity is actually growing.
Wow. What a fantastic journey through this deep dive. Seriously. We went from defining strategic thinking, seeing beyond the immediate.
The habits that build the mindset.
To the frameworks and mental models that bring clarity.
Yeah, covering a lot of ground.
You listening now have, I hope, a really fantastic shortcut to being well-informed on building that strategic mindset. You've got actionable habits, tools, frameworks, all pulled from our sources.
Hopefully useful takeaways.
It really boils down to anticipating, evaluating, planning ahead. For more clarity, more confidence, more control.
And you know, that journey of thinking ahead, it really is ongoing. It never stops.
Each decision adds to it.
Exactly. Each decision, each reflection, each strategy you try, it strengthens the ability. It shapes your professional success, sure, but also your personal growth, your fulfillment.
And it becomes more intuitive over time.
It really does. More practice makes it feel less like effort and more
So
like,
lovely.
well, just how you think, almost second nature.
So, a final thought for everyone listening, a provocative one.
Okay, here's something to try. For your next challenge, instead of just asking, okay, what should I do right now? Or what's today's decision?
All right, different question.
Try asking yourself this. What's the absolute best outcome I want to achieve in 6 months or a year?
Okay.
And based on that future goal, what proactive steps, maybe even small ones, can I take today to start making that future a reality?
Starting with the end in mind and working back to today's actions.
That's the core of thinking strategically, really bridging the future you want with the actions you take now.
Powerful shift in perspective.
So stay curious out there, stay resilient, keep that spark alive, and keep diving deep into your own strategic journey.